Hello and welcome to the Roll Down, a teamfight tactics podcast with a absolute focus on the Oceanic and Southeast Asian region and growing them. My name is Cutler. I am so pleased to have two of my dear friends. I'm going to introduce my co-host first, and that, of course, is Sol. Sol, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. Good. Yeah.
It's nice to see you. How you doing? Congratulations on Master. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but how do you feel?
Uh, relieved. Relieved
Relieved.
would be the answer.
Yeah.
Tired and relieved.
Brilliant. We'll get into that. But our guest, a man, a friend, a colleague, an absolute titan of the industry, Mr. Jdahni. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
Okay, there's no need to inflate the ego. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here. I'm doing well today.
That is so good. I've titled this episode Squid Game, so I really hope that gives us everybody an idea of what we're going to do. Dani, James, my friend, I want you first to give us a little bit of a brief on yourself, when you first got into TFT, your background, and I think we'll go from there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, look, I've been playing TFT, like I've played all of the seasons, but I never really took it seriously until I started streaming it. So maybe at around about set 4, I was watching a lot of the popular streamers. Probably Raza was the person I was watching the most at the time. I'm like, fuck it, I want to get into this a little bit more seriously. I never really ever really looked at the game critically until that point, in season 4. And then, once I started streaming it myself, it got so much more engaging. And yeah, I've pretty much just been addicted to, heavily improving and just sharing my progress at the same time ever since. And yeah, TFT has been my main game ever since in streaming. So, I've just been immersed in it.
Man, I'm so glad you're here. I am so excited to talk about the topics we're going to talk about today. It's so good.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
We're all glad to have you here.
I'm very, very pleased because James, for those of you who don't know, James is one of the most enthusiastic and enjoyable streamers that stream TFT that I've ever seen. He's totally unapologetically himself. All he does the entire game is just emote, go absolutely crazy. He's always overly excited. He's overly furious, and it's just like the perfect roller coaster of emotions that you get watching this stream. Welcome. We're going to talk set 6 today. And I'm going to start with the man who is the highest rank right now. And that the man who spent 14 hours on stream grinding it out, hitting master, going to 90 LP, D1, back down to 0 LP, and up again and down again. What are you thinking about set 6, man? What's going on?
It's good. Set's good. Otherwise, I wouldn't be grinding that hard. I wouldn't be playing that much. Yeah. I think that they did. I mean, we've talked about it a bit already, like a lot, like in just previous pods at this point. But I think they did a really great job this set with just making the set mechanic feel varied, feel fun. Every game feels sort of different. Every game feels like it's sort of its own little puzzle. They've made the carries feel very satisfying to play. I can't really think of a 4-cost carry except maybe Urgot. It's kind of like boring to play. Like they all have like very flashy abilities. The 5 costs feel like 5 costs. They truly feel like legendary units. And yeah, I think this set's really, really good. It's really, really fun.
James, your thoughts so far on set 6?
Yeah, thoughts on set 6. Sure. Like to Sol's point, that the games are really, really volatile. Like you'll see huge variance in the games, particularly in health advantages. You'll see someone like 100 streaking in stage 5, and conversely, someone will be dead in stage 4. Like there's so much variance, and from like a combinatoric point of view, just considering like the billions of augments that are possible, like there's so many unique perspectives to each game. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. There's a lot more lower level in depth to the set, whereas the previous set felt a bit rigid. So I mean, that's the best way to generalize it for now. It's just a lot more complex and engaging at the moment.
What are you playing right now, James, on ladder?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my earlier games, I tried to experiment a little bit more, and as usual, with last set just maining Vel'Koz, like I tend to find something that I specialize in a little bit more. But that being said, my sample size is only 50 games at the moment. So if I play another 50, another 100, then I'm sure that's bound to change. But for now, I'm predominantly playing Yone. I'm playing, any variation of it, 6 Academy, 4 Challenger, 4 Academy, whatever it is. I'm trying to work my early augments around Yone as well. So if I see an early augment that gives me an Academy spat or a Challenger spat or, Academy mana reset, then I'm like snap calling those things every time. So I do try to force it a little bit too much. But when I'm not playing Yone, I will try to play a little bit of Urgot is the easy fallback. It runs similar items on both the carries, and yeah, it's just a really easy fallback to run like Urgot Jinx with the 5 chem board with a bit of bruises. And worst case scenario, I'm running like Lux carry, but I've found AP to be pretty underwhelming at the moment, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit later as well.
So, you pretty much played for the first few days like only Urgot. Am I right in saying you played like a lot of Urgot for the first few days, and then
70% Urgot games probably,
and then the next few days after that, you were like, "This comp sucks. This unit sucks. I'm not playing this stupid shit anymore." What did you end up playing to Masters predominantly?
It was probably like 60% Gen. 60%. It was okay. If I was to just guess off the top of my head, it was probably like 60% Gen, 25 to 30% Yone, 5% Lux, 5% Urgot. Is that about right?
Okay.
A lot of variants, yeah. He's got the pie chart out.
Sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about the right fair share. Yeah.
What do you think's not working right now? Like, what's not good?
I actually don't think anything in particular is bad. I actually, even though like I just said those 4 comps, I don't even like. Those are just the comps that I defaulted to because I found them to be consistent. But there's a lot of comps that are like sort of B tier, but can very very easily work provided you have the correct setup, you have the correct augments for them. Like one comp that I didn't mention at all is Scion that I actually think is really really strong. But that one depends heavily on where the Socialite Hex is positioned. Yeah, I actually don't think any of like forecast comps are particularly like bad. I think they're all like very very viable, and I think that like it's only a matter of time until we slowly solve the rest of the comps, like the rest of the forecasts that are not as popular right now.
Yeah, James, is there anything for you that hasn't been working at the moment?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I try not to play the things that aren't working for me, but I pretty much exclusively don't play reroll. I think 1-cost rerolls are not really working at the moment. You'll see them spike early when they're hitting, like trade sector augments and that kind of thing. But I'm seeing the 3-star Casted and the 3-star Garen fall off really, really quickly. So no matter how hard you're streaking early, whenever those people get to, roll down at 8 and stabilize with the, the stage 5 boards or whatever, I'm seeing that be really, really bad. Also, conversely, I'm not sure how good everyone else thinks Arcanist is, just because your frontline is like solely just a Vex in most instances. And I found Lux to be an insanely unreliable carry just in her targeting, as well as, maybe it's to do with the fact that I don't get to run blue buff as early because I'm not prioritizing tiers. But yeah, I found Lux to be pretty unreliable as a carry as well. So I'd say Arcanist and like 1-2 cost rerolls probably aren't as good.
I'll put a special mention out there for Cho'Gath as well. I think that unit sucks right now. I think it's so bad. I'm like looking at 3-star Cho'Gath in my lobbies, and it's just fucking dying. It's getting 2 ults off. It's not killing like any of my frontline or anything like that. It's not getting any stacks off in the end of the game. And I think conversely that has a lot to do with the fact that there's quite a high priority on Giant Slayer. A lot of the AD carries, potentially not Yone, but a lot of the AD units like Urgot and Jhin both really like Giant Slayer. So having that one giant unit at the front line trying to carry you is not actually great because it doesn't have any innate tankiness aside from like a massive amount of health.
Right. Yeah.
For me, it's not been working very well. I will say that like every game somebody tries to go mutants, even if the mutant trait is like bad. So, well, like not bad. I would say like there's definitely like a tier list of mutant traits right now where like if you get the one with reduced mana cost, you can play Malzahar. If you get the execute one, maybe you can play Cogmore. But the sort of the general stats ones I find still bait people into playing.
Oh, it's funny you bring that up because the best one is probably the one where as your units die, your mutants get stronger. That's actually probably the best one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think there's still a lot of people trying to play mutants when they don't get any of the good ones. And I feel like that's not working. So there's potentially some room to like change up some of the numbers there. Maybe make mutant more appealing at different stages of the game. Maybe even it's hard to build a comp around mutant right now. I'll say that unless you get a very specific mutation, it's really hard.
Yeah. To sort of speak a little bit about mutant, I mean, I think that this is sort of how they wanted to design it, because the tricky part about mutant is that you have a couple, maybe just one or two carries that are very, very strong with just mutant in general. So, you know, you've got Malzahar, who's really, really good. I've seen Cog do okay given the right setup, and then Cho'Gath is kind of. But the issue is that like these carries don't really share any really real sort of overlap. In a mutant is a 3 trait, so you basically can't activate mutant without playing like an off synergy mutant, right? Like you would have to play, if you want to activate mutant like as early as possible, you have to play Kassadin, Kog'Maw, and Balzahar, 3 units that basically share zero synergy at all. So I mean, I feel like this was the intention, because otherwise mutant might just be too powerful. But yeah, that is part of the reason why mutant's quite weak, just because it's really, really hard to get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting point on Lux too that you brought up, James. I think Vex is really fucking broken. Like I think
Vex
it's
is really
so
good.
good. I'm really, really, really surprised that Vex isn't like more highly contested, like to re-roll it. Putting GA on it is so good. Like putting GA on Vex, like the shield still goes during the death animation of it. So I mean, for me, I've had quite a lot of success like with Arcanist, but I also think they're quite augment specific, and augments is something that we can definitely like get into now, because we've got a lot of the discussion around set 6 will be, of course, around
About augments. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
What are you guys thinking about like the state of augments? Have you guys had the triple prismatic game yet?
I watched Carlos play one today. Our friend Viagra play one today.
I had my first one today. It was amazing. It was so much fun.
It's just so insanely volatile, right? Like
it's absolutely insane.
You know, people are taking Fawn early. People are taking all these crazy augments, and the game is so accelerated. It's just a completely different game. It's really exciting, sure, but at the same time, you know, like it's tough to play around that as well. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'll use an example from like a game that James and I had. We were in call together. We were playing a game. We had got Prismatic at 1-4. I got Windfall, which gave me 20 gold. I was level 6, 30 gold at 2-5, basically. You know.
Yeah.
Yep. That sounds about right.
I mean, I was level 9 at like 4-6. You know, like this kind of stuff is like, that's just ridiculous. That's like accelerating the pace of the game. But I mean, if you're the person that's doing it, it's so much fun. Like I was having the greatest time of my entire life. Like I haven't had that much fun since like set 3.5, you know, because that was
it's kind of like when they had what do you call it, where they had a different thing every time, the
galaxies.
What do you call it again?
Yeah,
exactly.
Galaxies. Yeah, galaxies.
It's really similar to that, just like a
absolutely.
Getting triple prismatic is the closest I feel to like old TFT,
for sure.
When they kind of embrace that like super RNG style. Set 3.5. It's really fun. Like, don't get me wrong, it's really, really fun.
It's very reminiscent of the Big Bang Galaxy in 3.5.
Yeah.
Where they combined Treasure Trove with Trade Sector with Fawn Galaxy, I think. Very, very reminiscent.
Do you guys think that there's anything that needs to be nerfed right now?
In terms of augments?
Yeah, in terms of augments.
Augments or units?
Well, no, we'll start with augments because there's a bit more. I think augments are like, there's more to talk about, I think, right now.
Sure.
It's tough to say. I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way, Saul. I don't really feel like any one particular augment is more broken than others. Like, they're all so circumstantial and they can all be used effectively, depending on, I
think that holds true for most of them, except I think Metabolic absolutely needs to be left. That augment is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Metabolic Accelerator, if you take it at 1-4, is basically a guaranteed top 4. The only way you could possibly not top 4 a lobby if you take Metabolic Accelerator at 1-4 is if you AFK. I wish I was joking, but I'm actually not, because that augment itself is worth. I think if you take it at 1-4, it's worth like 30 to 40 to even 50 HP sometimes. It's something insane. Literally, like, it's almost impossible for 4 players not to bleed out before you. And from that point onwards, you can literally just play strongest board with Metabolic and if at any point you like break a streak, you will just have metabolic eventually heal you up to a top 4. So I think that currently that like I don't know how you fix it because I think it's too weak if it only heals 1 HP per turn. Which
Yeah,
was
sorry, I
metabolic.
was just
again.
gonna say.
It's-
So, do you want to just quickly
Yeah.
tell everybody what Metabolic
Sure.
Accelerator is?
The Metabolic Accelerator makes your champion move faster, which is really, really important. It's not. The important thing is that at the start of every turn, every round, your little legend heals 2 HP every turn. So if you just like think about the value, right, that it potentially could generate 5 rounds a stage, that's 10 HP. You play what 4 or 5 stages on average a game. That's that's 50 to 60 HP. And let's say you win, you win some rounds, you don't heal. It still probably makes you about 40 HP. So like, if you think of that then as in start the game with 140 HP, top 4ing is not very hard when everyone else only
I
has
think
100.
it's way too good. I think it's like
Yeah,
it's
I think so too.
ridiculous. I think it's just
It's way too good
absolutely insane.
early for sure. But the thing is,
Yeah.
across 50 games, I literally have not seen anyone get it on 1-4. So I don't know if that's just me
Oh
with low
really? I get
variance.
it like
but
every 4th game.
Oh,
I don't know what it is.
it's good at
like-
through 3 as well.
Yeah,
Oh, it's really good
and
at through
it's
3.
good
Sure,
at
it's
through
for the
three.
second augment too, totally,
Yeah.
totally, yeah.
Still good at through 3.
Yeah, it's undeniably broken. I just haven't seen it all that much.
Yeah.
But I think like
Hmm?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
go.
think also with augments, like Kristen raises a really good point that sometimes there'll be instances where you get 3 emblems and you're like, fuck, I don't want to play any of this, like scrap bodyguard
Mhm.
protector or some shit.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there are some circumstances where you just like have to take an undesirable augment and play around it as well because you like kind of want to utilize it. Like nobody wants a dead augment on their field. So that's just another thing that we need to learn to play around our augments too. So it makes it a lot harder to come into a game and say, I have a set strategy, I'm playing this is the early board I'm going to run, etc. Because the augments will always throw a wrench in the plans.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. One more quick thing on Metabolic Accelerator too. I know you said that the speed doesn't matter, but I've won
It
a lot
matters
of
a little bit.
I've won a lot of 50-50s
Yeah, it matters
with
a
the
little
speed.
bit.
Like,
It matters a little bit.
if
Yeah.
you because you have Metabolic Accelerator, you're pretty much always 3rd or 4th pick. So you're basically fighting one other person for the last good item on the carousel or like the one that you want. If you're faster than them, you'll get it anytime. It doesn't even if it's right in front of them, you can get it. So I would say like both instances of it. I don't know how the fuck they nerf it. If they make it 1 health heal, it's useless.
It's way too weak at 1. Yeah, they can't make it 1 per turn. So I'm not
probably
trying
needs to scale with like missing health. I think that's the only thing that's like possibly.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I
like
think
a
like
1, 2,
they can
3
leave the speed. The speed's fine. They need to
Speed's
figure out a
fine,
way
yeah.
to sort out how to like. It's so broken. I've been like, you can go back up to 100 health pretty easily.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
yeah
I've been like 100
yeah.
health at 4-3. You know what I mean? Like, and and you
Yep.
lose like. You can lose 6 rounds.
It's
of the
even
game, basically,
it's even
and get
worse.
back up there.
It's even worse when you play in a lobby where multiple people get it, because
Yeah.
you just know that like there's 2 people that are already a lock for top 4,
Mhm.
and you're playing for one of the other 3, like 2 slots left over. For
And
top
you
4
also
in the
know
lobby.
those people are going to go level 9. So their boards are going to be extremely capped in stage 6. So if you're still alive in stage 6 with them, because they'll be alive, they'll have enough health.
Yes.
You're going to take 20
I had
rounds, basically.
I had a game go to 7-1 because there were 2 people with metabolic in my lobby.
It's too good. I think it's too good.
It's really cursed.
I think as well,
For sure,
like,
for sure.
another one of the... I think some of the ones that they've made common. I know that like, there's prismatic, gold, and silver, I guess. Or let's say silver. Some of the ones that they've made silver are super, super balanced, like super good early, and then they fall off. And that's like perfect design for those kind of ones. It really needs to be the same for Metabolic Accelerator. I think there needs to be like more emphasis on those specific augments falling off. I think Thrill of the Hunt's a really good example of that. Like Thrill of the Hunt 1 is like the difference between you and like 15 HP by stage 3-4. Like some people just like infinite heal and you lose by 4 units when you were almost about to win. And then at the late game, if they've got Thrill of the Hunt 1, it's basically useless because every unit has 1600 HP.
Yep.
So
I mean, Riot's been doing a pretty good job, right? If we can only think of one augment that's like that fucking broken.
Yeah. I think
I genuinely can't think of any more. Like I think it's
I will
irrelevant.
I will say though, I think that if we like, even though there's not a lot of broken ones, there's a lot of like really useless ones that I think that need to be either reworked or buffed in some way.
For sure.
So if a lot of what like I would like to refer to as sort of build arounds right now are I feel like traps and are just not really worth going for at all. So the Yordle one that makes all Yordles have 35% dodge chance is just terrible.
Useless.
Yeah, bad. The Syndicate one that makes you get a gold for every Syndicate unit, like sure, whatever. the mercenary one that makes you do damage for however much excess gold you're holding. Like, bro, who's trying to win streak with mercenaries? Like,
Meanwhile, there are
yeah,
a few that are good too, like the Arcanist one, where you get a shield based on your percentage ability power.
there are
is
some
really
winners.
good.
Yeah, there are definitely some winners, but there's a bunch of them right now that feel like yeah, they don't really reward you that enough for going for the thing, like going for like the specific chase trait. And
all that
they
matters
look
are
good.
all that matters are the
Lucky
good
ones.
ones are the ones I play, like Chemtech and Arcanist, like bang bang, you know, sorry, Academy
Yep.
with the mana reset. Yeah,
The Academy
ones
one's broken.
for sure.
Bro, I
and
haven't
Chemtech-
seen that.
The
See,
Academy
this
one's
is like
unfair.
the thing. This is what's really funny about set 6. I haven't seen the broken Academy one. Someone had to tell me what it was the other day. Was it one of you that told me what it was? Because I'd never seen it.
I think so.
I
Actually,
got it recently.
yeah.
I didn't even know what On Guard was until like 3 days into the set.
Oh,
'cause
the
I'd never
disarm?
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like never seen it, and I was like, oh, this is so annoying. I actually think On Guard's really good, but I've only seen it twice.
On Guard's really good. On Guard's insane.
I
On
think
Guard's
they,
actually.
they need to halve that. I think honestly.
Is that what
The
challenges
On-Guard-
disarm? Sorry,
Yeah,
or-
Yes.
Challenger
On,
disarm.
yeah,
Okay,
On Guard's
right.
is yeah.
Not only
yeah.
because Yone's clone disarms as well, it's like absolutely ridiculous.
If you put Runeends on, is it procking on everyone as well?
It's procky on multiple. I tested it
Fuck.
myself.
That
I
makes
tested
no
it myself.
sense.
I tested it myself. It rocks on
That's
multiple.
so dumb. Okay.
So I
Yeah,
will say
yeah.
that one feels like that one is unfun to play against, and
That one is
It's-
unfun. Yeah,
it's
that one is
okay.
actually unfun.
It's like
Agreed.
fun to play, so that's fine.
It's fun to play because you're winning.
It's fun to play because it's good, right? But if it makes other people's like game inherently more frustrating, then it needs to be changed in some way. And that's
I
like,
think
I think
it'd
there
be,
can be. I think there can be a push pull. I think things can be frustrating to play against, and still exist in like a healthy ecosystem. It's just a matter of how frustrating they are to play against. Like, yeah,
bro,
I
that
don't know.
one makes me
I
want
think
to pull my hair out. That one is ridiculous.
I think like yeah, I think like if the duration was, I think if the duration was lower, it would be fine. Like I think if there's something for like a second to like 1.5 seconds, probably fine. Currently it's like way too long. Pretty sure. I can't remember how much.
Yeah,
2
totally.
seconds.
Do all of the classes have an augment that both, you know, buffs it, or one that's like utility where you like get gold, or like, do you know, there's only some of them only have like drawback ones, like utility ones, like the mercenary ones that give you gold, right? It's not like there's one that buffs mercenaries as well, right? Whereas, you know, for the academies, yeah. So I think that, you know, that could be a little bit more like a push pull one for all classes.
Mercenaries also have the one where it's potential to get a gold any mercenary when they kill, like damage, but like anyone gets a gold, like GP's Q killing, but it's for everybody.
Right.
And then they get.
I guess you don't play Merc. You don't play Mercs. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you'd rather- you'd
Yeah,
rather
the thing
take
is you never play
Twin Shot.
work to win streak. The thing is you never play win streak Merc. You always just
Exactly.
lose
Yeah.
streak.
Yeah.
Lose streak is much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Unless you high roll like GP2 early, you're never winning anything anyway. Like I got rolled
Yeah,
by
yeah,
some
yeah.
guy who got collected GP2 on stage 2.
Damn.
Double farm.
Yeah.
It's kind of gross.
I
That's
know.
beautiful, actually. That sounds so fun to play. Holy crap.
Ugh, that's ridiculous. I will say that there's a lot of other augments right now that I think are debatable. And a really interesting one that I want to talk to you guys about is gain an additional socialite at 1/4. What do you guys think about that one?
I kind of like it. I kind of take it when I know that, you know, the majority of comps I'm playing around, you know, the 4-cost carries will utilize the socialite hex. Look, is it strong early? No, I kind of need to play around that early, but you know, it's definitely not going to spike me, but it's kind of like investing in the long term of the game. You know, I know that I'm going to utilize that, and you know, I really think 3 socialite is really fucking strong. If I can find a way to play it, I think it's really effective. But you're kind of sacrificing early game power for like empower, and I guess I'm down for that in most instances.
You're talking about duet, right?
The
Duet,
one,
right?
Whatever the one is that just gains an
Duet?
additional socialite.
I think it's
an additional square. Oh, okay.
I think
no,
duet's
not an
terrible.
additional
I
square.
think
I mean,
just
I mean the one
a
that's just
socialite.
like you get a socialite at 1/4.
Oh, you're not talking about duet. Okay.
No,
okay, I thought
not
you
the
were
one where you
talking
get a
duet, 'cause I was gonna
second.
say-
Not where you get a second
Yeah.
one.
I was gonna say I think duet's terrible because you need a socialite to activate duet. So if you take it early and you don't even have a socialite, you basically lose an augment of value. Socialite heart is good. Yes, the one that gives you a free hex is good. Like, or it just gives you like the heart, like the inbuilt socialite. That one's good.
1/4. Yeah, I think
That one's actually good.
I've gone full circle on it. I was taking it all the time for the first few days, and then I thought it kind of sucked, so I stopped taking it. But I've come back around to thinking that it's pretty good now, like based on the absolute value of 3 socialite right now.
Sure,
It is
sure.
really, really fucking good.
The Socialite is good
Yeah.
for sure. Yep.
It's hard to fit it in so many boards though. When I want to be playing Joy,
yeah.
it's really hard to find a gap for Seraphine most of the time because I also need frontline, right? So it's hard. I think it's a realistic trade-off that once you hit that power spike, I pretty much basically can never run 3 Socialite unless I have a Socialite emblem or hex or whatever you fucking call it. So
Yeah.
otherwise I probably don't want to sacrifice too much board power for the comp I already want to make. Yeah.
So the thing with Socialite is, I would say, at least from my experience playing it, is that Socialite is much better earlier in the game, and towards the mid game, and tends to fall off quite hard in the late game. The reasoning is that as you during the early game, right? Positioning is very unpredictable because you have so many people to rotate into. This makes it difficult for people to position specific for Socialite, hex units. As you get to the top 4, it becomes very, very easy to predict what people you are rotating into. At which point, the Socialite hex is almost unplayable because your opponent, like if you're going to use the hex, your opponent will literally just perfectly position for you every time. Like they'll put a Zephyr on the Socialite hex. They'll have all their carries out of the way of like whatever firing arc it is, and yeah. So I think Socialite in that sense is actually in a good spot where you can use it as like a power boost in the early and mid game, and towards the late game you sort of use utility units instead on the Socialite hex to still get value, but you don't use you don't rely on the Socialite hex for your carry.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I think I overutilize the existing Socialite hex and I'm just getting like destroyed about it. One of the little knickknacks I like to do is to at the end of the round just like move my board to the entire side. Like I had it on the Socialite hex the entire time. At the end of the round, just move it and then move it back at the very last second because I know that when people are scouting my board, they probably don't think I'm going to use a Socialite hex. Like that's a little thing I do, but no, I totally take your point. Like games should be moving your positioning a little bit more, and not overly relying on the Socialite hex because good players will capitalize on that and take advantage of you there.
Yeah. The exception is if you play
Scion. You're still fucking quick swapping in set 6, bro. This is ridiculous.
Hell yeah.
This is more shit. Someone remove that fucking thing.
The exception to everything I just said is if you play Scion, the Scion comp. Scion is the only comp where you're entirely reliant on the Socialite hex and you never miss Scion off the hex. Because Scion is a Colossus, so cannot be, he cannot be CC'd. And yeah, he gets absolute value out of all 3 Socialite bonuses.
Yeah, it literally doesn't even matter if you put your carry on the other side of a Scion. Like the carry, if it's a melee carry, it'll find a way to get to Scion, and Scion will eat it for breakfast. So yeah,
Scion will find his way.
I want to talk about openers at the moment. There's a lot of good openers, like a lot. I think that the ability to have so many viable openers is really nice. Like there's a lot of little chase things that you can put in early that do make a big difference. I want to ask you guys how you've been opening recently. Talk me through item prio, early unit prio. Are you just playing what you get? Are you going out there looking for stuff? I'll start with you, James, this time.
Yeah, it's a combination of what I get, but at the same time, I'm leaning so heavily on scrap. So it's usually a 3 innovator 2 scrap opener if I could possibly get it. I like the fact that I don't need to slam any components early. I don't need to slam any items early. Rather, I can just, because I find 4 scrap relatively early. In the majority of games, I can even roll a couple of times if I really want to hit it. But I really like the 3 component threshold with 4 scrap. But when I'm not running that, I'm probably running 2 scrap 3 innovator. And aside from that, there's a small percentage of the times where I'll hit an early Leona and try to play 4 Academy early with a Katarina carry. I think that's pretty good too, but just 4 scrap has been so good to me. Literally, Trundle is an early game carry. We've talked about it before. He's just very, very effective as well. So yeah, 4 scrap for me all the way. I really don't have too many other early comps that I lean on too early.
David, what do you think?
There's a lot of viable openers right now, but there's one that sticks out, and it's scrap. And it's not that the scrap trade itself is broken. It's the key offender is just Trundle. As of right now, Trundle does way too much damage in the early game. He scales way too well with his ability because of how long the fights are. He holds every single AD item way too perfectly. He literally holds every single item well. He's just too flexible. So Trundle's the issue. I think as soon as his numbers get nerfed, we'll be in a really good spot. To talk a little bit about various openers that I think viable and good. You've obviously got Scrap Innovator, that's gonna be good. You can do what is it? You can even do bodyguards with snipers. You can do bodyguards with Caitlyn Tristana backline. You can do Syndicate with TF Zyra Darius. And the TF holds blue buff Murillo, which I've seen do really, really well. That transitions really, really easily into AP. So yeah, long story short, the openers feel pretty good to play right now. There's just one that's a little bit egregious, which is and it's purely inflated because of a single unit, which is Trundle. And I think that once Trundle gets toned down a bit, it'll feel pretty good. Like everything will feel pretty good.
Yeah, totally.
I'll put another one out there and say that Darius is too good right now. Like just as a one cost unit.
Darius is really good. Darius is really fucking
Darius also basically holds every item in the game. I've had a couple of games today, especially when I was sort of doing a little bit of research for the podcast, like practicing different openers. I basically just like defaulted to Darius every game just because it was so good. Thrill of the Hunt Darius at the moment is way too good early on. Like the ability to basically just infinitely heal every single time is just so good. Like I'm very much into like a 2 bodyguard opener in some way or another.
Yeah, for sure. I think like elaborating on that, I think Blitzcrank is also an amazing unit. It kind of reminds me of like the Aurelia from last set. Just like one of the only 2 costs to be like a triple trait unit is so effective that you can just run it with so many units, a bodyguard, a protector, and a scrap. It's just got to be one of the core units that you want to run early in like almost all instances.
I gotta be honest, I don't know why Blitzcrank needs Protector. I think it makes it it makes it like really good.
I don't think it's
like,
strong,
you know
actually.
what I mean?
I think protectors need the help. I think if Blitz was not a protector, it would be really doomed.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree. Yeah.
Because the issue with protectors right now is that Scion is sort of a fake protector. He's not a real protector. And so protectors lack any form of like late game scaling at the moment. So they can only really be good early game. So I like that Blitz is like the glue, if that makes sense. That sort of holds the protector frontline together if you do have to play protectors early. Yeah. So I don't actually mind that he's protector.
Because I don't think Garen's that bad. I actually think Garen's pretty good right now. Especially because of how like good Academy is at the moment. I think it's kind of being slept on how good like multiple different versions of Academy are right now.
Yeah.
Katarina is really good. Katarina is like one of the most underrated units at the moment. Like
Cat comp is
re-rolling.
good. Yeah, like Garen and Graves are both really underrated. I will agree. Graves is the other one I would like to point out. But the issue with both those units is they both need to be 2-starred at relatively early points of the game. Is the other thing.
Yeah.
Like if you don't hit them on curve, they're pretty worthless. Like later down the line. So yeah.
I think Katarina is really item dependent as well in order to be like a really effective carry early. I don't know how dependent, but like, you know, obviously she benefits amazingly from either, I don't know, like Hex Tech, Blue Buff, JD, whatever, but I think it's kind of mandatory. I don't think she can, because oftentimes based on someone's positioning, she could at times just be like a single target. You know, she does have an AoE, but really if someone positions well around it, then, you know, it's not really gonna kill more than 1 or 2 units at a time. So yeah.
It's really good. I'm right now. I'm like I haven't played a single fucking game of Katarina, but I haven't beaten it in any lobby I've been in. You know what I mean? Like I'm always just losing to it every fucking time. I don't care if it's like 2-1 or 6-2. Like I'm just losing to Cat every time. I also think that if we're talking like openers as well, I think Talon needs a tiny bit of a nerf. It basically kills both backline units for free.
Talon's really good. Yeah. Talon's really good. Talon is actually legit.
Double Talon is so fucking good.
Talon is legit. Talon's legit. Yeah, it's not bad.
I will say that Ziggs is like the most fake fucking unit I've ever seen in my entire
life. For sure. Holy shit.
And I know we'll date ourselves a little bit by saying this because they are going to fix it pretty soon. But the fact that Ziggs can't even do 1-2 right now because it's so bad is hilarious. You can actually lose to 1-2. They've already said that they're fixing that, so just make sure that if you've got Ziggs, like don't take Ziggs off carousel, right? Basically.
Yep.
I think Ziggs needs a lot of help. I think the bomb needs to be slightly quicker. It needs to land a bit quicker.
Yeah.
If anything,
yeah.
I don't think the damage is too bad because it's got the scrap benefit, and it's also got the nice benefit of having Yordle. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, you either make the bomb do more damage or you just make the animation faster. I think both are fine. The wind up at the moment is really long. It's really frustrating.
There's a couple of units that I wouldn't mind having the animation sped up on a little bit, to be honest. I think there's a couple of offenders there. I think Echo is a really good unit, but it's probably another one where the animation could just be like a tiny bit quicker.
Yeah, but then Echo's ability is really good as well. So
Yeah, it is good. I think they could nerf the damage on it and up the time.
Yeah.
The quickness.
Yeah, it
Oh,
should be like the utility unit, I think. Yeah.
I was gonna say it already. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even know if you know the damage. I feel like Echo's fine honestly, because if you think about his ability, it's pretty good for a 3 cost. Like it frozen hearts their team, and then it attacks speed buffs your team as well.
It's kind of
So
nuts for a 3 cost, right? Doesn't it
that's
sound
what I
too
mean. Like
good?
when I
You
explain
can
it to you, like yeah, when I
Yeah.
explain it to you like that, I think Echo's in
I
a
actually
fine
think the
state.
base damage is a little high. Like it's actually
Yeah.
sizable.
I do think that the damage needs to be nerfed. I'm just like I just come at it from like if they're gonna change, if they are gonna change anything, I think that a couple of the units right now need a bit of a speed increase. The Yordle opener. What do you guys think about opening Yordles right now? I think getting a 3-cost Yordle off an orb, even though it's like enables the comp, still feels bad.
It doesn't feel amazing. It feels so underwhelming. You know, I've just like a lot of the strong early game openers just absolutely dismantle it, and not only like beat the board, but beat it by like 4 or 5 units at times. You know, it just feels really really underwhelming. And even when you hit some of those 3-star tempo points, like you know, you kind of need like 2-3 items on Poppy just for it to be an effective frontline. Tristana damage feels really really underwhelming. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that. Some people were saying that instead of running yeah, totally. I mean, some people are saying that instead of running attack speed, just run pure damage, but I don't even know if that's going to solve anything. I genuinely think like she's way undertoned. So yeah, Yordles for me is just like a massive miss. Obviously some people can get it to the point where they hit Vega, but yeah, just like in terms of average placement, I think it's really really low, and I would not opt into it at all.
Anytime I see Poppy, I'd rather just put it next to another bodyguard. I wouldn't rather put Yordles in front of it.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
It's so much
I
better
think,
with like the armor.
I think Socks explained it pretty well in like his I think guide, where Yordles are probably, so I did say earlier that I think the traits are all in all are pretty good. But it's unfortunate that I think Yordle is the main outlier, and it's not even like I can't even really fault the team. So the issue with Yordle is that firstly, Vigar, right, is impossible to balance properly because Vigar either is extreme, like if Vigar is ever good enough to justify going for it, then you should always go for Vigar. As in, if that Vigar is that powerful, right? But then if Vigar is not good enough, then you should never go for it. So Vigar only ever exists in a state of being completely broken or completely useless. Like Vigar can never reach a state of being balanced, because if it's ever worth it, then in theory you should just always, like, if you're in that spot, you should just always go for it because it's more or less guaranteed. Furthermore, the issue with Yordles as a reroll comp is that like the units are so consistent to hit because you're guaranteed to hit a Yordle every turn, that they're essentially like fake 3-stars, like what Draconics were last set, where they have to make the base stats quite bad because you're gonna hit them at a very early point because the game is giving them to you for free. So again, it's a balancing nightmare. So it sucks because I think the concept of Vigar is really cool. I actually like all the Yordle units, but yeah, as a comp, I think that it's not great.
Do you guys want to? I want to ask you guys what you think is a unit that's being slept on right now, and I'm going to ask you for 3 different stages of the game. I'm going to ask you like an early game unit that's being slept on, a mid game unit that you think's good that's being slept on, and then a late game unit as well. Let's see if we can come up with some things like that. I'll start with the Soul first.
Early game.
Yeah.
Slept on early game.
Dude, this game of Jeopardy is fucking hard. He's just like
yeah.
putting a huge riddle.
It's probably
It's not easy.
I don't even know if it's like, I don't even know if it's underrated. But like it's probably Echo. Like not enough people are playing Echo early. I feel like Echo is insane. Like super good. Yeah, that's my pick for early game. I'd say Echo.
James.
Me for early game. I'd say either like Camille or Swain. I've seen Swain be really really effective, even as like a pseudo tank with like an Arcanist or Imperial lineup. And Camille, I don't know, it's probably not even sleeper because I think a lot of people play it anyway, but she also functions pretty effectively as a frontline tank, really good for 2 clockwork early and 3 innovator. So yeah, it's a really nice unit as well.
Swain was actually going to be my answer as well for early game. I think it's really good.
That's solid.
I think it is really, really good. It's really surprising how much it heals, even if you've got like just 2 Arcanists. Like the damage, like it can heal back to full basically every ability.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
it's one of those ones where you don't hate getting it off an orb. Mid game, Soul.
Mid game. Why is it always me?
Why always
My
me?
answer's ready. It feels good.
Yeah, okay. I'll go.
Okay, if Jdahni's got an answer ready, Jdahni
yeah.
can go first.
All right, James, go
Sure.
on.
I just like watching your brain just like churn through, do its.
I have my late game answer. I have my late game answer.
No,
but I don't have my
okay, yeah. I think my mid game answer is probably Heimerdinger. I think it's a really strong unit that does a lot of damage. And...
Jdahni desk slam. Fucking stole both my answers, bro. What the hell?
No, you stole my answers. I just beat you to the punch.
Yeah, dude, I think Heimer is so fucking good. Like as an AP item holder, I think it's really being slept on.
Sure,
Wait,
for
Did
sure.
you say Heimer, right?
Yeah, Heimerdinger. The thing is, like, no one's playing Yordles early, so in order to
Yeah.
actually run it effectively, you probably just want to be playing Innovator.
Yep.
And you can fit a Skull unit easily, but yeah, you need to be playing Innovator when you're playing Heimerdinger. It doesn't really fit into, like, I don't want to be playing Yordles, so therefore, if I'm item holding for Lux, then I want to be playing Innovator early. Yeah.
Okay, I guess my answer is like I don't know if this is underrated, so I feel like everyone plays it, but I think if we're talking about the mid game and if we define mid game as like stage 3, early stage 4, I think Taric is the glue that holds literally every single like mid game comp together. You could just pick up a Taric, splash him in, get value out of the Socialite Hex. You can easily fit in Enchanter with Lulu, and yeah, like it's just the easy 2-piece that can like it's an easy 2 utility support units that you can fit into any sort of opener, and I think it's very, very solid.
Interesting, yeah. Really, really interesting to bring up Heim. I've found a lot of success with Heimerdinger recently, like having it as an item holder, especially for like if I'm looking for AP later in the game. Even if I've got like just a Giant Slayer on it, it does a lot of damage, and having it in the Socialite Hex is really, really good. I will say that I feel like there's like Vex, even with no Arcanist, is insanely splashable. If you've got tank items, like let's say you've got no like registered tank, maybe you like rotate out of bodyguards to get a couple more of your comp in, like Chemtex or whatever it may be, wherever you're going. I think splashing, like hitting Vexes, is really, really good right now, and I think that not a lot of people are utilizing it at the moment. Let's go late game. This is going to be interesting. I think we're all going to have different answers.
I have a spicy pick. I have a really, really spicy pick.
He's so ready. All right.
Hit us.
Can I go? Can I just go?
Yeah.
Okay, my pick for late game is Zyra. So
what?
Basically, okay, think about it like this, right? Zyra early game, right, is quite underwhelming because your opponent doesn't have that many units in their backline, right? Once you get to the late game state where some guy has like 5-4 units lined up neatly in the backline, Zyra is completely fight changing in that like she just like roots the entire team. And the other thing is that Zyra is actually quite easy to splash because a lot of fast 8 boards currently play Jdahni already anyway. So before you find the Yuumi, right, you can just play the Zyra for Scholar and CC. And when you find the Yuumi, it's like the cleanest swap ever. You just swap the Zyra out for Yuumi. But until then, I think Zyra does a really good impression of giving you backline access, which is something that you don't actually have a lot in this set. There's not actually too much backline access. Not too many ways to like stun that Jhin that's on the other side. Not too many ways to, stun that Lux that's on the other side. Whereas, yeah, Zyra gives you a way to actually stun their utility units, their support units.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's my hot take.
That's cool. That's a
really good answer.
That's a fucking spicy ass take. My answer's gonna be way more boring than that. Go on, James.
No, I just love how proud Sol was of his answer. It's like so analytical, so I actually agree with everything.
Because I've been thinking about it for a while. I'm just like, why not people
totally.
playing Zyra late game? It's so good. Like everyone has like 4 or 5 units in their back.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know how I feel about my answer. I was gonna say Jace. I don't know how much people sleep on him, but I probably slept on him way too early initially. And I think just the fact that he is an enforcer that works really well in the majority of UNA boards that I run to enforcer, and also can act as like a pseudo tank. Shreds armor and MR as well is really effective for the rest of the board. It's not really something that I tend to prioritize, but I think it fits in well with pretty much any comp. Yeah, it's probably like your level 9 unit to put in, like after you made your level 8 board. It's a really good addition. But yeah, I think Jace is really good.
I'll say right now that I think Jace is the most broken unit in the entire game. To be honest,
yeah, broken's a strong word, but
I think it's
for sure the best.
good. I also think it's the best.
It's for sure the best stat cost.
I also think it's the best spat holder in the entire game for pretty much anything. Like Academy, Arcanist, Chemtech.
Yeah, I guess because he can also do
so
damage,
good.
right? So he acts as like both a frontliner that can also do damage. Then for sure, yeah.
Academy and Arcanist Jace, ridiculous. Both so good. I'm gonna say that. Although, like I've been talking about how good I think Academy is, I feel like a lot of people are sleeping a little bit on Leona as a late game tank. I think it's a really easy splash.
Yeah, it's hella good.
A really easy splash into a lot of boards. I know that a lot of front lines right now are kind of like bruises or Brom or like Jace.
It's usually
Basically.
Brom Leona. It's
Yeah.
usually Brom Leona right now. It's
I'm-
sort of the default.
I'm seeing a lot of people like opt out of Leona in the late game at the moment, and I think that that could just be a disparity of where we are. Like it's sort of one of the first units that gets removed for an additional damage dealer.
Mhm.
I think it's like really good. I'm not gonna say it's
It is
better.
really good.
It's not. I'm not gonna say it's better than Brom because like just how good Brom's CC is right now, but
Yeah.
it's up there with like being a 4-cost style unit, like a 4-cost style tank.
Yep.
Yeah, fair.
It's nice that there are a lot of 3 costs that scale, like 3 cost 2 star like tanks / utility units that actually scale into the late game and actually end up in your final board. I think it would be really boring if it was like last set where your final board is just all 4s and 5s. There's a lot of final boards right now that I craft that have a bunch of 3s in them as well because they're just really good.
Yeah, for sure. I think even at the moment, like a lot of the boards are really reliant on a couple of 5-cost units, like tile the synergies together as well. I kind of find that a little bit annoying at times when I'm going 8 and I cannot find that one unit, like a Yumi or something like that. Especially like a UNA board, for instance. I could probably complain about it the most, but even a lot of other boards are very contingent on one 5-cost unit.
I think Yumi, Jace are the biggest offenders when it comes to utility units in terms of tying together your board. And Jinx is probably the biggest offender when it comes to carry, in that the boards that have the boards that want to play Jinx that have a Jinx are not in that difference to the boards that don't have a Jinx. So yeah.
I will say another one at the moment is Akali. Like when it comes to
yeah.
Akali is currently. I know I just said Jace was the most broken unit in the entire game, but it's really close between.
It's really close.
And
it's really
Jace
close.
Because I think Syndicate is like a really, really cool ability.
Yeah.
And it's got really cool units, and like there's a drawback where you have to play a couple of shitters to make it really good. Like, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that from a balance perspective. But whatever the fuck they did to Akali before the actual live release is ridiculous. They buffed her like 3 times. I went back and had a look before this podcast, right?
Yeah.
They buffed her like 3 times in the last week.
Yeah. The thing is, Akali was really, really bad in PBE though. So I don't even blame them though. I'm actually happy that she's like really good. So they have levers that they can pull now and actually start toning her down. But she was really bad in PBE. I'll just like put that out there.
I want to my kind of final thoughts on this right now is, with every set, something that kind of doesn't get figured out for a while is the spatulas. And I know I've sort of just brought up the spats right now, but what do you guys think about like where spatula is right now? Because there's a lot of uses for it. You know, I'm seeing like at least a couple, like maybe 1, maybe 2 people like having a really good spat every single game. And how do you think it's going right now, like spatula?
It's really interesting, just the fact that the whole spatula dynamic has completely changed because you're getting so many emblems with the augments. So prioritizing spatulas in previous sets would have been, you know, fist pump, hell yeah, for a lot of other comps, whereas now I don't really think there's as much priorities on the spatula to begin with because you can get those emblems. But personally, I mean, you know, are we talking about strength of the spatula? I think it's obviously, you know, weaker than what it was in previous sets because you can get all those emblems. There's a lot of versatility to what you can run. I think a lot of the comps, all the meta comps, run various traits of almost everything. So you're much less often not going to have a dead spatula than you would in other sets where you pretty much needed a certain spatula item. So I do like the versatility there, but beyond that, I think, you know, you can suffice with without the spatula. I don't prioritize it as much as I did in other sets.
I think that the things that they chose to make spats are fine and good to a degree. I think the issue is that right now the game punishes you really hard for playing vertically, and it rewards you greatly for playing horizontally. So what that basically means is that like the game punishes you for playing 6 or 8 of one trait and rewards you for playing a sort of very wide mixture of overlapping traits. Like the current state of the game rewards you a lot for playing a lot of 2 pieces, a lot of 3 pieces, maybe 1 or 2 4 pieces to tie a team together. But yeah, so spatula is always gonna be weak when that is the sort of quote unquote stronger way to play the game. In terms of what the spatulas actually do, I think it's like pretty good. I think it's like totally fun. Like Chemtech is good, Academy is good, Arcanist is good. It's just simply a matter of like horizontal versus vertical right now, and horizontal is a bit better.
Interesting. I've had a slightly different experience where I feel like I'll say this. I don't think going vertical is bad, but I
No,
think
I
that
will say it's bad. Yeah.
I think that branching out or going horizontal is better right now. I think it's actually in a pretty good spot. I will say, like, I'm getting to the end game a lot. If there was a spat on 2-4, you know, for example, and I didn't take it, I'm getting to the end of the game. I'm like, I really need a spat to tie my comp together. Like, I need that 3-piece, or I need that 2-piece, or I need that one more of this to, like, really tie my whole comp together. I feel like there's a lot of instances at the moment where, like, the later the game goes, the more I'm, like, lusting after spatula to, like, really link my comp together. And I think that's kind of a good place for it to be, because it kind of incentivizes you to want to go after spat early, but it also makes that spatula, like, kind of dead for a good period of time as well.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting conundrum we find ourselves in. Last sort of question on set 6 before we move on to our special subject for the day is, what's everybody's favorite, like, unit right now?
So, do you have anything on your mind immediately? I need to think about it a little bit. I definitely don't have a
favorite unit.
I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna point out Zillion. I think Zillion's so good right now.
Zillion?
I love it.
What? You have to elaborate why.
I love Zillion. I think he's so cool. I think it's so easy to splash early. I also think that it's, like, really good against early assassin players, and I fucking hate assassin players. Like, it's really cool to see, like, a Shaco jump to the back of your board at, like, 2-3, and then the Zillion just bombs it and then it dies. Mwah. Beautiful. Mwah. And it's like not a bad item holder either for AP items, like, before you transition into sort of more late game things. I will say that the combination of Clockwork and Innovator is, like, really good as well. I've played a lot of Jhin. I pretty much, like, not only played Jhin, but, like, I'd say, like, 70% of my games have been Jhin on ladder at the moment, because it's just what I'm finding the most enjoyable. And that combination is really, really good. It has a lot of really good and interesting tie-ins for sort of mid-game boards and how to best strengthen your board around sort of stage 3 and stage 4. Yeah,
totally. Oh shit, yeah, my answer. I like Zach a lot. I think just the fact that he has, like, multi-CC on a lot of units and frontline and, you know, disrupting and actually has, like, sizable base damage as well. I think, yeah, I'm kind of, like, really happy to see him early in combination with, like, you know, Trundle plus Scrap. Like, I love to play him early. I think he's a really good unit.
I'm really surprised by Zach's early damage. It really, like,
surprises
Zach
me
does
when
a
I
lot
see
of
damage early.
Like, and he just, like, one-shots one of the backline units sometimes. Or, like, puts them down to, like, 20%. Later in the fight. It's so cool. Like, it's really cool, but it's, like, quite surprising. I wasn't really expecting Zach to, like, do that much damage. He also gets damage reduction as well, right? Like 60% when he's using his ability.
Yeah.
Great. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I think man, I really wanted to avoid saying Jhin, but it's probably Jhin. I think they did with Jhin, I think they did a really good job with a unit that sort of cleaves through, like with, like, a unit that fires, like, projectiles that cleave through everything, and that his positioning is a lot more nuanced and is not as binary as other similar units in the past, like Aurelion Sol and Vel'Koz. So, like, the way Jhin like fires his curtain call is that he'll open his ultimate, like, in the direction of the unit he's currently auto attacking. So that means that, like, you actually have a lot of agency in terms of how your Jhin, like, how you get your Jhin, like, firing angles. And your opponent also has a lot of counterplay in terms of, like, how they put their frontline units to bait your Jhin into firing at specific angles. So it's pretty good in that it makes it so that the fights aren't just, like, left side, right side. It's a lot of, like, sort of small sort of micro movements because I want my Jhin to aggro to this, or the other way around. But yeah, I think Jin's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a really good point. That was something that was, like, super not fun about the early carries like Asol and Vel'Koz. The fact that you literally, like, you know, no matter how you positioned, it basically casts the same way every time. So
yeah,
there was no outplay potential.
Interesting. I like that. That's a good answer. We have a secondary topic, not just set 6. We had a lot of interesting set 6 discussion, and I'm really pleased that we got through so much of it. But there is a mini topic, and that is, of course, about our guest. Now, our guest, I'm going to call him famous. He's
Oh,
famous.
stop.
He's famous for
Infamous.
he's famous for
You just said
something.
Chaos and Jose in here. I gotta cut you off. What the fuck?
Somebody would say. Some would say.
Infamous.
Some would say that he is equally well known for one specific thing.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you, and we're going to go back in time.
Sure.
And we're thinking back. We're thinking rank 5. You're at the pinnacle of the ladder. The pinnacle experience. You're streaming late at night. You're slamming your desk. You're quick swapping into victories in high challenger lobbies. And we're going to ask you a few questions about like that sort of journey. I want to know from your perspective, like what it felt like to kind of hit that supreme high of like top challenger.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was definitely surreal because it wasn't a gradual climb at all. I'd pretty much been like hard stuck master, hard stuck like low GM for a long time. And when I finally did make it to that level, it just like consecutively, and I don't even want to say that anything clicked because I don't really think there were any like major changes or leaks that I plugged in my gameplay, but really I just like turned on the biggest hot streak. I don't know how to describe it really, but I just ran into an amazing string of positive variants, and next thing I found myself like 800 LP higher than I ordinarily was, and I'm like, holy shit! It's tough to say like I did one thing differently that enabled me to climb. Like there was no secret recipe or spice or anything. But yeah, it was a surreal feeling. Like I've never taken the game as seriously as I did then. I'm celebrating like any unit dying. I'm literally like inching onto every little iteration of the game. So. I mean, that's just how to describe it at first. Like that's how I felt. It was pretty big because like I've never been anywhere near that high. So I kind of like gave me a little bit more. Ego's not the word, but like it gave me a lot more confidence in my gameplay at first to say like, holy shit, like this came out of nowhere. I'm actually like top 10 ladder. Like that's respectable. So I was proud of myself in the first instance, and yeah.
Was there ever a time when you felt like I don't want to play Vel'Koz this game? On that streak?
There actually wasn't, and the reason for it is that I pretty much ran into no resistance while playing it. So basically, if you compare it to what I think is the strongest comp at the moment, probably like Jdahni at the moment, it's just overly contested and I cannot reliably hit it every game. But Vel'Koz, aside from when we got to the end of the set where it started to get a little bit more contested, they actually had some Spellweaver buffs, you know, like 11, 19, something like that. Prior to that, it was not contested at all. It's sitting at like fucking 11% win rate and like 52% top 4 rate. The stats are really low. Why would anyone voluntarily want to play it? So I kind of like specialized in that comp that no one else was playing and that was so position dependent. And I tried to use like the moment I started using my tracker religiously, I know what 3 matchups I'm versing at all time. And then like my Vel'Koz is always in optimal positioning. Like that's when I found my win rate skyrocketing. And yeah, no, I found no resistance just because no one is overly contesting me in playing that comp. And secondly, there's a lot better early AP holders in set 5.5 as there is probably now, where I'm not losing anywhere near as much health to prioritize AP items early as I was in this current set. So it was kind of like a win-win scenario. Like I can get to the late game without sacrificing too much early game, and if I'm the only one playing this comp, it's going to do really well. So yeah, literally every single game was just like a repeated simulation where I prioritize Sunfire Cape, prioritize Shojin, and whatever the other flex items from there are, so be it. But it's always the same board. It's always the A-bomb board. A-bomb is so effective. It's just it just became a repeatable cycle, and it just went well every time.
What's wrong with you? I guess that's my real question. Like, what's the matter with you?
I thought that was a good answer.
I think that's great. I really like that. I wanna ask you, like, how do you force a comp in this game? Like, talk to me about like what the thought process is to like hard force playing exactly what you want to play, because we've all got our own different answers. Like I played like 80 games of mech in a row, so I know what it's like to force a comp. It's a different scenario, it's a different feeling, but I want to hear it like from your perspective. Like what do you need to do in your mind, in your like understanding of the game, to like say every game I need to make sure at this point this is what I'm doing, kind of thing?
Yeah, you need to be super adaptive with so many different elements. I'll start with items. That's probably the most adaptable thing, You know, if I get a bow into tier, I'm fucking desk slamming because I'm feeling so bad. But literally, I'm like, okay, what's the best possible scenario I can make with these items and still play this comp? Well, it's probably just going to be like ZZ Rod or Giant Slayer are the only components that I can make are somewhat viable. So I literally need to find, you know, when the game throws me something else, I still need to find a way to try and bring it back. So literally, it's sometimes like, oh shit, I'm running Karma carry early and then transitioning into Vel'Koz later. So like, I've had games where I hit Karma 2 on 7 and fuck it, we repivot back into Vel'Koz because the board is stronger overall. So it's literally just okay. There's a push pull there. Like if you're not being adaptive enough, like you want to force it, but only to a certain degree. Like once you pass a threshold, you're over forcing at that point, and then you're griefing your games too much. So I'm trying to find what that threshold is. If I still think I can realistically play it, then I will. Otherwise, I will have to pivot. But yeah, it's just about literally finding the balance between the two. You don't want to overforce. How do we force the same comp every time? I mean, look, we need to get lucky to a degree, but it was aided by the fact that not too many people are playing this early. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. I just got to collate my thoughts on the matter, but yeah, totally.
I think like to add a note on that, I remember a while ago I was watching Kermax the stream, and he was explaining how that this is back in like that 4.5 when you could one trick Kale, like one tricking Kale was very, very popular. He explained that like even though like you're quote unquote one tricking, the way you arrive at your final board is different every time. It's like the open you have to sort of learn like the term one tricking in this game is almost fake in the sense that like yes, even though the end board is the same every time, it doesn't mean that the decision making, that doesn't mean the process to get there was the same, right? You have to learn all the different like types of like different like outs when it comes to items. You can't just stick to one rigid BIS because you're never going to hit the exact same, you know, combinations of items every time. Neither are you going to hit the exact same open every time. So a lot of it, I think, is also just learning what all the different outs are, like what the different variations look like, and you know, etc., etc.
For sure. Yeah.
Early game, when it comes to playing the same comp over and over again, mastering your early game or understanding like where to move your early game from, so important. And that's for like that's sort of more like a tip for the people that are kind of getting into this game. Maybe they're like stuck somewhere and they want to improve. It's like, really look at your early game. It changes every time, but the second that you feel like you're stringing together units and understandings and picking up where like comps together are strong, that's when you'll start to improve, and that's when you can start sort of focusing on the different phases of the game as well. Because I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anyone play like the late stages of the game as well as when I watched you, James, play Vel'Koz, because you were pretty much like a stage 5 fiend every single game. You were so incredibly good, and I will say that quick swapping has a lot to do with this, and that'll be my next question. But you were so incredibly good at like, and you said it was like using your scouter and using your tracker and things like that, but like just being able to like understand where you're supposed to, like where your units are supposed to be every single round when your health is on the line and when the game's on the line was like something that I haven't barely seen before, and it was very impressive.
Oh, thanks, man. I think the caveat to this also is that this will not be replicated this set. So I'm going to need to learn to be more adaptable for sure to have anywhere near the level of gameplay that I was having on the previous set. There's no catch-up mechanic. There's plenty of other things that just make it so much more difficult to play that style, that one early comp style. Obviously, the augments and a million other factors. So that is less relevant this set than it was last set. And for sure, I need to learn to be more adaptable. We all do, basically.
So, do you have any questions for James about that? Is sort of his experience last set?
Yeah. So, is it Timo Lulu or is it Syndra Lux?
Okay.
Jdahni knows what I'm asking.
I know what you're asking. So basically, for context, the Vel'Koz board, you're either running Syndra Lux as your secondary units for Redeemed, it also gives Mystic, or you're running Timo Lulu, which also gives Mystic, but Hellions, and Timo's just much, much better. Look, Timo's undeniably better against the AD comps that are clumped where Timo can actually slow the attack speed down. The reason why I didn't like running it is because one, it's harder to hit. Syndra 2 Lux 2 just feels so much easier to make. And two, like, okay, sure. The instances when you're running Timo Lulu is a lot stronger. I guess I also valued the 3 Redeemed value as well, a little bit, but I can't sit here and say that Syndra Lux is better. Like I unequivocally, Teemo Lulu is better, but personally, I just felt confident running Syndra, especially games where I don't have declaw and I cared a lot more about my positioning and Vel'Koz being safe than Syndra Lux just became stable to me. Yeah.
I will say that yeah, I mean towards the later half of the set, I definitely, 'cause, you obviously know that my stance is very hard on Teemo
Sure,
Teemo
sure.
Lulu at the start, but no, towards the end, I did get around to Syndra Lux a lot in other situations because Syndra Lux made your Val board a lot more durable, for lack of a better
Yeah,
word. It
sure.
was a lot more useful. It was especially once you got into the Squid mirrors. Actually, Syndra Lux is actually quite good in the Squid. Having like the extra MR was quite good for the Squid mirrors, and also having the Syndra to throw away Dianas was also really useful because
Totally.
because Lulu polying the Diana is hits a bit different. It's not quite the same.
I think if you have Trap Claw, it's just fist pump, then sure, Teemo Lux is fine. And
Yeah.
But without Trap Claw, then I really don't like it. It's too volatile.
Let me
For
say
sure.
that this is one of the nice things about TFT, where we're sort of talking about a set in retrospect, and you still get sort of like, do you think this combination or this combination of units like at your end game board were better? It's a really nice niche thing where we can sort of discuss, and everybody's opinion is different on like how to maximize a late game board. I was personally in the camp of Syndra and Lux, but we will not discuss that any further.
Yeah, the
Because
thing is,
otherwise we're getting back into set 5.
in the grand scheme of things, there's like a million other areas that are so much more critical to understand. This is like the smallest facet ever,
Yeah.
where literally winning one over the other is the tiniest difference imaginable. It does
Yeah.
not matter.
Mm.
But we're talking about it in such a degree, it just like
It was
doesn't.
just small optimizations. It was so
For
funny.
sure,
how
for
much we
sure.
talked about it.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of optimizations that you can make when you're playing at a high level. I quite like that. I think it's an interesting topic where the closer you get to quote unquote perfecting a style of play, the more niche the discussion is about what's good and what's bad, basically.
Yeah,
So
totally.
you kind of get it. This is basically a question of like, what do you play between 5-5 and 6-3 between the end of the game? That's like basically the end. That's basically the question you're asking right now. It's like, what's better when I have 20 to 0 HP? You know, I mean,
Yeah,
it's very
very
cool. It's cool. I like that, and
That's cool.
we probably won't even get to that sort of point until the end of this set, where it's like, oh, was I supposed to run Oriana at this point, or was I supposed to?
We'll definitely
go
get
with
there for
Seraphine?
sure.
We'll get there. We'll certainly get
It'll
there.
come to a
We'll get
point
there.
where-
We'll get there.
Yeah. We're all at that level, and we're gonna be like nitpicking the smallest
I mean,
of things because that's what we
I
need
mean,
to
the
do
thing
to
about-
continually improve. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think especially with this set, the utility units this time around are so good, and there are too many of them to fit onto your board. There will definitely be some arguments at some point. Yeah,
And that's how we improve, right? I mean, these
for sure.
discussions just help us think about it
Absolutely.
more critically as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have too much else for you specifically, James. I will just say, like, do you agree that quick swap should be removed from the game?
I, as someone who abuses
As
it,
the,
it's really
as a significant benefactor.
Okay, sure. I'm gonna look at this objectively. I think the answer is yes, because people who don't know that the mechanic exists in the game can't counterplay it. But basically, if it was common knowledge across everyone and everyone knew that you could quick swap from one side to the other, it's annoying. It doesn't make sense. Why would you only be able to quick swap from one side to the other? So by that token, sure, it should be removed. I don't hate the notion of a quick swap where you can press a button to move from side to side, but no, it's a little too complicated at that point. And basically, it's not common knowledge across everyone. So some people it's advantageous to some and not to others. So yeah, for that reason, it should be removed. But I'm a benefactor, so I don't really give a fuck right now. So yeah,
You're gonna keep using it until it's removed.
yeah. I mean, that being said, my APM is really good anyway. I'm not reliant on it. So by the same logic, I probably should just not use quick swap if I'm not reliant on it. But if it were to be axed, it's not going to be like detrimental to my gameplay or anything. I'm still pretty quick with the mouse.
So what do you think on quick swap? Do you think it should go?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about already on the Keith and Jose episode, but yeah, I absolutely think it should be removed. For me, as Jdahni said as well, I totally agree. I think that as a game mechanic, it's fine if you can swap quickly to and from one side. I don't actually have that big of a deal with that. My biggest issue with it is how unintuitive it is and how sort of un-new player friendly it is. yeah, the fact that like I played TFT for like how long have I played it for at this point? Like a year and a half before finding out it was even a thing.
Same,
Like
same.
this has existed since set one. This mechanic, but
I
like
know
yeah,
here as well. Yeah.
pretty much. I literally learned in 5.5 when it mattered because Vel'Koz behaved the way it did. That's literally when I learned how it worked. So as you know, because of that, I think that yeah, it probably shouldn't exist.
Interesting. Very interesting. We are at the point of our show now where we take some wonderful questions from our audience. So anybody in Twitch chat right now, if you have a question and you want to hear it from any one of us, and our special guest, James, of course, most importantly. So if you have any questions for him. But we do have a couple of prepared ones, pre-prepared. English is hard. I don't know why I host a podcast if I can't speak correctly. But I'm going to cast it over to my co-host, my close personal friend Sol, to get us underway.
All right, let's get the show on the road. So, first question, we got to go on. So are super high capped boards from sort of econ traits such as mercenary, or from really powerful econ augments in the set such as high end shopping, golden ticket? You can all think of those. Are they would you say that they're healthy for the game?
I think so. I think the good thing about them is that it pretty much adds a gambling mechanic. You can't replicate success on those boards every single time. So I like the idea of giving someone like a Hail Mary to make like a completely unbeatable board with those really good augments and traits. But at the same time, I think it actually has a lower average placing than a lot of the other more reliable boards, because for sure it's an RNG based comp and you can't replicate that every time. I like the notion of having like a fortune based, econ based comp. And yeah, I don't think it's overly I don't think it's imbalanced in the sense that, it's broken. I think, its average placing is probably lower than that of other comps when you can't reliably hit it every time.
Your thoughts, Cutler?
It's interesting because whenever you lose to somebody that got really like cashed out, and I think back to kind of like Fortune as well, where like everybody was watching your board, like watching you when you lost. Like the guy who was like on a 9 loss Fortune, he's like jumping up and down. He's in all chat. He's like, bro, I'm out of the prison. I'm at 25 health. It's fucking 3-6. I'm so like, give me my 5 costs and double Nico's. Yeah, like he's so excited. He's like, who the fuck lost to this guy? Like, who did it? Who the fuck cashed this guy out?
Who win traded?
Yeah,
who PayPal'd him?
Who screwed this entire lobby? You know what I mean? Like, moments like that are really enjoyable, and like enjoyable from like a community style perspective. I will say that I haven't experienced that yet. Like I've been the one that like cashed out a like a 9 loss streak guy, a 9 loss streak mercenary. Nobody cared. You know what I mean? Like nobody was
Shit.
Big raid. All right,
thank you.
Got a raid.
Thank you so much
shit.
for the raid.
Gotta probably quickly acknowledge that real quick.
Oh my god.
While we're here. Yo, Connor, thank you so much for the raid. I love you very much. Mwah. Thank you guys for the raid. We're talking TFT tonight, so thank you very much. Yo, Steve, thank you for 5 months, and Roller, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it, guys. I love you too, Connor. Thank you very much for being here. I need to note that down. 1 hour 17. Cut that out of the audio. Yeah, Connor, thank you so much, guys. If you don't know Connor, the amazing streamer from Melbourne, really good. Does a lot of horror games. Dead by Daylight. Used to play TFT. Actually, I used to do little coaching streams with Connor. We got him to Diamond in 1 season. I think season 3.5.
Nice.
Go and give him some love. Anybody in here who likes scary games or who likes wonderful young people who are good streamers? I don't know.
That's a little sus, but okay.
I'm
All right, that was. We'll cut that out of the audio too. Yeah,
I'm cutting this whole bit out. That was a little
I can
say whatever I want.
Yeah, we're chilling. It's all good. It's all good.
I can say whatever I want. Yeah, guys, you can also I'm on my channel, by the way. You can actually find an interview that I did with Connor during my 24-hour event. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I like wonderful young people. Disgusting. Why would I say that? What's wrong with me?
Dude,
I don't
I
know.
don't even know what to say. It's kind
I
of
don't know
sus.
what to say. That was horrible. That was my
That's
bad.
okay.
That's my bad. But anyway, guys, in
Whatever.
my clips, you can actually find an interview that I did with Connor. That's
Awesome.
you learn a lot
Well,
more about him from there.
cool.
Why does James have such a nice smile? It's genetics.
It's gonna make me blush. What the fuck?
It's that
It's
half
easier. This
half
I've been
Malaysian
smiling through the
buff.
pain. I've been smiling through the pain ever since my childhood. All right, so like, anytime it's a bad moment, you just gotta smile through it. So yeah.
Exactly. I hope that I answered the TFT question well enough before we got here. So
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. That was pretty
yeah.
good.
I think I think they're fine for the game. I think that like the good outweighs the bad. I think the good outweighs
Sure.
the bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my personal stance is that overall they're good for the game. I think that we have seen points though where, so this is kind of interesting in that it's never been a sort of high elo issue like econ traits, because the lobbies always adjust accordingly if somebody is like giga loss streaking. So as an example, like when I was making my climb to Masters, even though a lot of people were playing Merc, because pretty much everyone in the lobby was basically Challenger at some point from last season, everyone was playing extremely aggressively and extremely high tempo, and like everyone was tracking the Merc player basically. So cash outs were like fairly rare. So it's not really like, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but they were fairly rare and the lobby adjusted accordingly. I think at that point it's fine. The interesting issue about it though is that towards the sort of middle of the ground, middle sort of elo, like around like so if we're just thinking of like normal elo, like not like at the start of the season, right? Around like the sort of diamond, like diamond 4 to like maybe like early diamond 1, it can be a little bit frustrating for sort of maybe like newer players to the game, weaker players to the game, who end up playing in lobbies where the lobby tempo is very, very low. So what ends up happening is that like you just never win games, because by the time you get to like the end, it's always some smurf who's like basically 10 loss streak the entire game, cashed out from like some guy running like the freest board, and it's just unwinnable. So I have seen people bring that up. Like I have seen like sort of more casual players bring that up as an issue, and that they find it very, very frustrating. This was a good example from last set was Kale, when the store comp, like the store version of Kale was a thing, in that it was like the night Kale, right? It was a terrible comp in high elo. Like it was absolute
Yeah.
god awful. Like because everyone just played proper tempo and you just never hit Kale. But it was really good in lower elos because no one played good tempo. So you just always hit the cap Kale board and you just always exodia the enemy team out. So I think that's where the push and pull gets really, really interesting. Sorry if that was a long answer, but
I think that's a good answer. That's a good answer.
I just thought it was good to provide perspective, because I think a lot of people's default answers is still like, yeah, high roll moments should exist. Why not? Let's have econ traits. But it's not that fun when you always just end up in in a top 4 situation where some guy just has an unbeatable board and you just feel like there's nothing you could have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually so interesting that it's correlated to it's more effective at lower elo comparatively to high elo, because you're not going to get punished to that degree. Like that was probably the first thing I noticed when I was climbing the ranks. I'm like, holy fuck, everyone in this lobby is leveling so aggressively. They're playing so aggressively. No one cares about 50 econ. Fine, all right. I guess I can. That was the first thing I learned when I like came to, I don't know, the big leagues. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah. Everyone just sends it, dude. Like everyone just plays like an animal. You're out here fighting for scraps. Yep. Cool. I think that is a really interesting thing about TFT. It's really, really unique. All right, moving on. So what are a bit of a more fun one? What are our sort of favorite augment combos so far? Any cool like sort of synergies that you guys have put together with augments?
I will say like I talked about a little bit, like Darius with healing on kill is really good. Like I really like that. Like as an early game, like Thrill of the Hunt. I think that's really nice. I think I will say that like I'm currently in the middle of writing a guide for Jin. And I know that Sol really likes playing Jin, and we've actually got 2 sort of different ways that we like to play it. So there's like, there are multiple different ways to play it. I will say that Stand United with Jin is a really, really, really good augment. And I think that people should if you think like you're gonna play snipers or you're gonna play Jin, I would recommend trying to get Stand United in some way. I think it's a really great one to take on 4-6, like just in general, because you're pretty much always like your stage 5 board, you're gonna be taking stuff in for like pretty much the entirety of the round. Like you're trying to cap your board, you're trying to fit your chase units in your 5 costs. So getting that extra like 10 to 12 AD and ability power per like unit is really, really strong. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it really adds up, especially on Gen.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jdahni?
for me personally, like I'm a really big fan of high-end shopping
Oh yeah.
because I think my weaknesses are more so in my transition and pivoting than they are the early game, and just being able to and just to make sure I'm not retarded, like that's the one that just I get a one level higher shop, right? Not
Hmm?
not mistaking that. Yeah, just being able to hit those level 8 units and like transition, it just allows me to roll down early at 7 and just like hit the board I'm looking for a lot earlier and just forego that transition trough altogether. So I'm a big fan of that. It makes my transition a lot easier. And yeah, anytime I get that a snap call. I'm also a really big fan of gold augments. I'll just like yeah, just an influx of gold as well because I'm really quick with rolling actually. So the issue is more so that I'm not allowing enough gold to roll down as opposed to the speed of the roll down. So I really don't mind having like 70, 80 gold for a roll down. I'm perfectly fine with that once I know the units I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I think for me, my favorite org, like, so a lot of them, at least with the way I actually play, when I'm actually playing a climb, honestly for me, all the augments just blend together, and that like they're pretty much all just like generically
Sure.
like I always just pick the ones that are just generically good. For me, the one that I've actually truly genuinely enjoyed from like an actual design standpoint as well as gameplay is actually Built Different.
Oh, yeah.
Build different, for those that don't know, is the one where basically your units that have 0 traits activated gain a different trait instead, where like basically a new trait, where instead they have, I think it's like 500 600 extra HP, scaling depending on the rarity of the build different org that you picked. They also get a big attack speed boost, like a 50-60% attack speed steroid. I think it's really cool in that it completely changes the way you think about crafting a team comp. All of a sudden, playing like you're thinking about like playing like duplicates of the same units because obviously they have 0, like the synergies don't trigger each other. You're thinking about what carries scale the best with attack speed. You get basically this huge early game boost because everything is, you have so many stats on the board. But then you need to start thinking about how you're going to actually make a team. Because once you start hitting stage 4 and you run into actually probably put together comps, you start falling off very, very quickly. And then the roll downs get very, very dizzy. Because you're like, wait, I can't play this guy. Wait, I can't play this guy. Because these two things overlap. And yeah, and I think it's really, really fun. I think it's really, really cool. I think I did a really good job with that one.
You see fun and chaos. I literally look at that organ. I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going to be able to make this work
Bro,
later.
I literally refuse to take it. My brain is not big
totally.
enough to take it. I'm like,
I would
no
never
fucking way.
fall.
It's not as hard as it seems. I'll tell you right now, it's not as hard as it seems. The way I learned how to play it is when I got it offered, I literally just looked at Robin Songs' video. I looked at what his endgame board was like. I plugged that into Team Builder and I just rolled for those units.
No, that's fair. I would need that guidance
Yeah.
too. Otherwise, I would get so
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't have
But the
enough
basic
like
thinking-
brain capacity to be like, I'm gonna watch a video during a TFT game to figure out what I'm trying to do. Like, I don't even look
The
at like
basic,
I don't look at team builder. You know what I mean? Like what's my
Oh
level
yeah,
9
yeah.
board kind of thing. I'm just like,
I'm a
I
big fan
can't
of
do
Team
it.
Builder.
I can't do
It,
it.
it helps me not get dizzy. It helps me really hard not getting dizzy. I will say the general idea behind building an endgame board with build diff is basically I want a frontliner from every single different category possible. So that means like I want a bodyguard, I want a bruiser, I want a colossus, and then when it comes to your backline, you're just like, oh, I just play legendaries. Yes, and then yeah, that's pretty much it.
So like it
Alright.
enables like a
Mhm.
Peebo style comp, right? Like a level 9
It
style,
does.
like
It does.
legendary
It does.
comp.
That's the general idea behind it. Is you
Okay.
use the early power to win streak you into a fast 9 board, ideally, which is why it's a lot less good in high chally lobbies because the tempo is really high. But that's why the prismatic version is particularly good. The gold version is like build diff 1 is basically not playable. The gold rarity, like the tier 2 version of it, build diff 2 is good. And then the prismatic one is the one that's really, really good. Because then your team gets really overloaded stats at a really early stage of the game. And you can really just win streak out from there.
Interesting. All right. Nice.
Anyway. Alright, next question. Cool. This is also a really, really good one. Do skills like positioning, econing, flexibility matter as much as previous sets? Or is most of the skill in play around augments right now?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to give the most general answers ever, but I think like the whole mechanic of a socialite hex just means that positioning is a little bit less of a skill mechanic than it previously was. Like it's easy to capitalize on other people just utilizing the socialite hex, but like I don't really love the fact that to optimally have the most damage, I need a position around my socialite hex. I guess the really simple and boring answer is that no, positioning is not anywhere. It's not as much of an outplay mechanic as it was previously. But I don't know. I'm probably keen to hear your own thoughts on this as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Carla, your thoughts, and I'll give my thoughts.
I will say from like the perspective of someone that hasn't played as many games as you guys
Right.
right now.
I played a fraction of Souls games too.
Yeah.
So like,
if we're going down the tier list, like I've played the fewest games, and then James, and then Sol. Right. Like I've moved my end game board like 3 times. Like so.
yeah.
Like my board has been very static, and I'm like, and this isn't to like prove a point or anything, but I have felt that it hasn't made a single bit of difference. Like at least personally for me. Like and unless I'm like in a top like, and you can say what you want about like the level of severity when you climb, but like I haven't like I don't put as like a significant effort into it as when I'm like a Masters, GM, or Challenger. Basically, like the game. Like I'll look up and it'll be 4-1, and I'll be like, okay, time to roll at 7. I guess I'll pay attention. Like I'll stop looking at my second screen for like I'll get off this YouTube video, or I'll get off this work. Like I'm like on a work meeting or something like that. You know what I mean? Like. So I kind of like look up, and I find and that's just like a personal thing. I will say that Sins the way that Sins is currently, it's very different positioning than what it was previously. So you're not like hard swapping to avoid the Sins in the late game anymore, because they like cloak, and because they have a bunch of armor, because they like don't show themselves. Like one of them is like invisible, like that kind of thing with Syndicate. So you're actually not like hard positioning to counter Sins in the same way that you were previously. So I think that probably means like overall the end game swapping units around and high itemizing your position, like high focusing your positioning, is going to be less useful overall. But you did bring up a good point about Jin that I thought was really interesting, where Jin's ult focuses in the direction that he's currently shooting. I find that interesting, but at the same time, it hasn't yet bothered me. Like wherever Jin's shooting, like I've never been like, Jin, why aren't you shooting in this this direction, or why are you shooting over here? That's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think like. Okay. I'll end off by saying I have yet to find in a climb to close to diamond any reason to switch my endgame board from position to position.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think the other thing I wanted to add is that the reason why I would put more attention to my positioning is if I were being punished by other people's positioning outplaying me. And again, I'm not really seeing that, and maybe I'm not playing enough challenger lobbies at the moment to actually get those boards. But aside from like positioning my Lux on both either side to make sure I'm focusing a carry, like I don't really see too much outplay potential in where my tanks are sitting, and maybe like my Yoni or Fiora might want to be the correct side based on where their opposing carriers. But beyond that, there's not really too much complexity of the positioning at the moment, and I'm also not really seeing too many people like move their boards as well. And maybe it's emblematic of the level of players I'm versing right now, and I'll see a difference as I climb. I'll report back, but yeah, there's not really as much need now.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting for you guys first to like revisit this topic like just later down the line once I talk to you guys, once you guys have made your climbs, because what I'm about to say is like gonna be like completely opposite of what you guys are basically saying. So I'll start by saying that I'll preface by saying that I think positioning in this game should never be the primary indicator, like primary reason of why you like win or lose a fight, if that makes any sense. I think that a properly put together comp with a ton of money into it should pretty much win like 90% of the time against a weaker comp. I think where positioning should matter is when two comps that are of equal power level in terms of gold and efficiency sunk into them. At that point is when positioning should determine the fight. So I guess what I'm trying to say by that is that like your 90 gold board should not randomly lose to a 40 gold board because a Diana was like placed on the correct side, or a Viego was placed on the right side, or Vel'Koz was on the right side and just blew your entire team up, is what I'm trying to say. So it's the same kind of thinking in other games such as like League of Legends, for example. If you're ahead of your opponent, of the opposing laner by like I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 gold, you should just be able to freely stat check them. They shouldn't they should have almost zero like opportunities to outplay you. Where the outplay should be when like you have very, very close like gold leads. Let's say like you're only like 500, 600 gold apart. That's when like there should be room for outplay, right? So to bring this back to sort of TFT, right? I think that the positioning in set 5 as a whole was very, very binary and very, very polarizing. You have a lot of units like Diana, Viego, Vel'Koz, which absolutely shred your team if they're on the right side, and do nothing if they're on the wrong side. Set 6 doesn't really have any units like this. There aren't really any units that will outright swing a fight if placed on the correct side. However, Set 6 has a lot of units that do that have fairly predictable AIs that have like targeting priorities that make a lot of sense, and when placed when positioned properly will make the difference in fights. Examples I can think of are like Braum ulting the backline or just like completely whiffing. Where you place your Braum actually makes a big difference in terms of whether it's able to hit their backliner or not. Zyra is a really easy example in that Zyra will always prioritize the biggest clump of units in a line. I've already talked about Jhin. Orianna is another one where Orianna will always shockwave the biggest clump of units, but she'll prioritize shielding your own units as well. So that dictates where you put your frontline clump as well. What I'm trying to get at is that there's a lot of subtle positioning sort of differences that matter in a fight in set 5. In set 6, sorry, in set 6. But it's hard to see them until you've got a lot of volume in, and that you might not necessarily notice that like they're necessarily changing your fights because in set 6 the positioning is less polarizing. So someone who has a better board than you will just beat you most of the time, and if you have a better board than them, you will just win most of the time as well. But yeah, so I think positioning absolutely matters, but I think it's in a sweet spot where, you know, it's like the sort of more minute edge, right? I even like mentioned the fact that like Blitzcrank is back in the game. Like you have like Zephyr Blitzcrank as a way to access backline. So all of a sudden you have to start thinking about that when someone has Zephyr Blitz in their lobby. So yeah, I think there's plenty of ways to outplay your opponents position wise.
Yeah,
That's a really
totally.
long answer.
I
Sorry
think
about that.
it's really good because like you help to quantify all those positioning differences and what the advantages you actually get are, and you know those are things that I couldn't really quantify at first. But once you actually do begin to quantify it, you pay attention to those and make sure that you know pre-round you're actually looking out for those every time. So it's probably a level that I will get to eventually. But yeah, I mean you're probably right.
Exactly. I mean,
like
that's
a
what I'm trying
learning
to say.
curve,
Like,
right? It's like
it
another,
is.
it's another learning curve on top of like already learning all the units and the comps and the positioning and the items and the blah blah blah. It's like something that comes to you the higher you get. Right?
I really don't want to make it just sound like, oh, I'm better PD. You know, it's more just like the positioning in
You're
set
kind
6
of up now.
No. I'm just saying that like a lot of these things, like in set 6 especially, are not very flashy and they're not very obvious in that they come to you through volume. It's not a matter of how good you are. It's just a matter of volume. Like you could be a weaker player and play like 100, 200 games, and then you'll notice like these sort of positioning nuances. Like you'll notice like what's making your unit target what, right? It's just that it's not so blatantly obvious like in set 5, where Diana jumps to one side and it ults the entire backline. So yeah.
That's a good point. Yep.
All right, cool. Next one is for more for just Jdahni in general. What attracted you so much to Squid, Vel'Koz, and just one trick so much in set 5? And have you found the same appeal in any set in any comp in set 6?
That's a little weird. No, I mean, okay, it didn't always have to be Vel'Koz at first. Like I one tricked Jax for the longest time before that. Maybe for a few patches before that. So what made it Vel'Koz specifically, I think, was the ability to just like delete the opposing carry in one cast that cannot be replicated in this set. Like Lux is not really having the one-shot ability that that Vel'Koz had in the previous set, and I find it so annoying when I've got my 3-item Lux and it often needs a blue buff item. So unless I'm running like Hodge, JG, IE, and even then I cannot really one-shot the opposing carry. And if it's like an Urgot or a Yone, it's probably going to heal back to full pretty easily. And then you just get stuck where Lux is like cannot kill these units, whereas Vel'Koz does not have that issue. Even though you have to run a mana item on Vel'Koz, you still, with 4 Weaver, usually almost always have enough damage. Even with 2 Weaver sometimes, have enough damage to just like delete the opposing carry in one cast. So that's kind of the differentiator between Squid now and Lux and Lux later. And the reason why I weighed so heavily on it is because positioning was so much more important for that comp than any other comp, and it's something that I did really well last set. So it's like, fuck yeah, all the advantages, everything is synergizing well together. Why don't I keep doing that? So that's kind of what attracted me to continue playing Velcros. I just was not getting punished by any other comp. Even against Sins, we can tuck our Velcros in right next to the A-bomb Graves. So literally there's a counterplay to every comp. And so long as you're positioning effectively, your top 4 rate just like goes through the roof.
Sure, for sure. I think that's a really good answer. All right, let's go to the next one. Yeah, it's gonna be for anyone. Do you have any ultimate goals for ladder/competitions? Will you achieve and be, or will you achieve and be content? Sorry, will you achieve and be content, or always look to climb further? I guess anyone can answer this question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I guess I'll start first. I have thought about it, but like, look, I really enjoy playing TFT, but I don't really want to, like take it omega seriously. Like at the end of the day, I'm satisfied by sitting in, challenger, like high low ladder, but I don't need to be like ranked number 1 or like, I'm not going to put like TFT next world champion in my fucking stream titles or anything like that. Like so long as I can just provide, like high level entertaining content on my stream, that's probably what I'm most satisfied with for now. And of course I'm going to give the qualifiers a go and that sort of thing, but I'm not really like pushing to be the absolute best. As long as I feel like I'm performing to my highest level, then I'll be satisfied with that. And like ideally, like challenge is always like the ultimate goal for me. Like it's not like I need to be the best, but I'd love to still sit top 100. I feel like the games at that point are a lot more respectable in the sense that like people will actually come to my stream to like consider that I have like something to offer in that regard. So I kind of like want to impart wisdom in that way, and I think in order to do that, I kind of need to be like at a respectable level. I think challenger is sufficient for that regard, but it's really no further than that. So yeah, I'll be satisfied just sitting chal.
That's fair. Color?
I think the most important thing for me is like feeling like every set I got better, and I think one of the big things about this game is like it changes so much every 3 to 6 months, every 2 weeks, even at a lot of points where like you always want to be ahead. Do you want to be the best? Do you want to push as hard as you possibly can? I mean, there are, and don't take this the wrong way, James, but you played like 600 games of set 5.5.
Yeah, and just before you continue, it was literally because I was so excited and just like learning the game in a little bit more detail. It's kind of like it's conflated by the fact that yes, we have this great OCE TFT community, and the more I talked to other people, the more I started streaming, the more interested I got in the game, and it's that's all I need to really keep me motivated in the game, just to be talking to other people, entertaining other people through my stream. That's all that matters to me, really, as opposed to my level. But yeah, do continue, Colin.
No, I was just gonna contrast that to me. Like I don't need that amount of games to love this, to love the set in the same way. Like it's not a bad thing to play that many games or to like really want to play the game all the time to do that and that kind of thing. Like I'm content just playing every now and then, making sure that my level is always improving, being as good as possible, and I think the I don't need to be anything more than a challenger player, basically. That's like I'm happy to call myself a challenger player. Like I've been challenger in multiple sets. That's fine. Like that's enough for me. I don't need to be like, it doesn't, like my stream's never gonna be like pushing rank 2, trying to that's not. I'm like sort of, I feel the same as James. Like as long as I feel like I'm in a position where I can help people in a certain way, people improve, like at the end of the day, I'd rather play like normal custom lobbies with my friends or duo mode than I would like play 300 grindy games in high challenger. And that's just because the community of the game is really enjoyable for me and really fun. I will say as well, like the overall goal is to keep this going. What we're doing here is to improve this, improve what we have here, improve our region, make sure that the people within our region are getting a chance to showcase who they are and what they're about.
Yeah, I'm eager to hear what Soul thinks. I think if anyone has the capacity to say that, fuck yes, I'm going to be rank 1 champion, I think it's just
it'd be really fucking good for this podcast if you do.
For me, I don't know. For me, I play because I enjoy the game. If I don't like the game, I'm not gonna play a lot. Is how it is, right? And if I really enjoy the game, I'm just gonna keep fucking. I can swear. If I really enjoy the game, I'm gonna keep fucking playing, right? Yeah, I don't really go into it thinking like, oh, I want to hit rank 1, or I want to hit this X goal, or whatever, because I don't really believe in setting hard goals like that. Because, oh man, this is the whole LP is fake kind of mantra, but like, I believe in that a lot. In that, like, if you have a flawed strategy and have a flawed approach and flawed process towards the game, even if you like eventually somehow stumble upon the result, like even if like you somehow stumble upon like top 10, like rank 1, if the way you're playing the game is just fundamentally like bad, like everything will eventually self-correct and you'll fall off a cliff. If you play the game at like a very fundamentally sound level and you have a very good strategy, right? It doesn't matter what set you're in, you will always be able to do well. And so my focus in every game I play is not, oh, I'm gonna hit this unit every game, or I'm gonna do this. It's always, what's the best thing, what's the best decision I can make, what's like the best thing I can do, right? In any given spot. It's never like I need this thing to happen, or I need to hit this amount of LP to feel like I'm a good player, right? And yeah, and that's just how I feel about like grinding and playing a lot of games. I play a lot because I really enjoy how I'm really competitive as well. I really enjoy the competitive nature of like high elo lobbies. I love the community. I love this community to bits. Like I've played a lot of other competitive games. And this game has just by far like the most welcoming, friendly, but also very competitive community as well. That's definitely scratches that itch. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I play a lot of games because game's fun.
Good answer.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. All right. Cool. Yeah. What? 2 more questions for tonight, I think. Yes, 2 more questions. Yeah. Would we like to see massive changes to the current balance of the set in the next patch? Why or why not?
Do you have any pre-prepared answers, Cutler? Because like really with a 50 game sample size, so tough for me to say that the like a massive change is required. I'm still trying to adapt to the current changes more than anything. So it's really hard, and I'm kind of like hesitant to say that this is what I want to see changed. I do want to explore the game and know it in a little bit more detail before I'm comfortable saying that kind of thing. It's a really boring way of not answering, but yeah, I don't really have any feedback in that regard.
Yeah, look, I will say that this game set 4.0, set 5.0 at the start didn't feel this good. Like it didn't. They neither one of them, and even set 3.0, and I loved it. I loved it with all my heart. Didn't feel this good. Didn't feel this balanced. Didn't feel this put together. Didn't feel like the effort was put in. Blah 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 blah. I don't think that they need to make wholesale changes right now to keep this set exciting and interesting and wanting to come back to it. I would rather that they make small changes. They nerf the stuff that they think is getting too much play rate, win rate, top 4 rate, blah blah blah, and that they try to slowly buff the stuff that they think needs a bit of help. And I would like that. And I could sit here and be like, man, nerf Akali, nerf Jace, like nerf this augment, buff these 7 augments, like oh god, there's like 14, there's like 18 units I want them to change. Like why don't they get rid of like this Yordle thing, or why don't they help this out? But like right now, the game feels like it's in a good spot for me. Not a great, like not the perfect spot, but a good spot. So let's keep it similar, and let's just like focus on improvements from there.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. I think this set has been the most stable set release, like opening like patch release that we've ever seen, I think. Nothing is just nothing is blatantly like broken, nothing is just blatantly ruining the game. Like we're like what 6 days into the set being live at this point, so I feel like we can say with confidence that like there's nothing game breaking, there's no game breaking comp, there's no war week, because someone would have figured that out by now, right? And yeah, like even comparing it to like set 3, obviously set 3 was great when it came out, but like set 3 still had plenty of issues. I feel like set 3 really hit its stride when they did 3.5, and that's when it sort of solidified its status as the GOAT. But yeah, even set 3 had a lot of issues at the start. I think I think they've learned their lesson really well as to like how frustrating sort of balanced thrashing can be. Like making massive sweeping changes to all these carries is just not very fun. No one really enjoys it when you have to relearn the game every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm very confident in more in the design team moving forward that they're just gonna balance appropriately. At least they've shown that that's their approach with how they balance set 5, right? There basically was zero thrashing in set 5. Sorry, why did I say set 5? 5.5. Yeah, in set 5.5, where it was a lot of like really small tweaks rather than just okay, skirms are in meta 1 week. Okay, now they're irrelevant. And then Vel'Koz is in meta for 1 week. Oh, now it's irrelevant. A-bomb was in meta. Oh, now it's terrible. So yeah. Cool. Yeah, and then the next one is James for Jdahni. And I feel like we already got the hint of what the answer to this one is, but you know, we can ask it again. Is Lux filling the void that is left in your
No,
heart by the
it's
missing
not
Squid?
feeling shit. Look, I mean, okay. The thing is, I haven't explored enough of solo Lux carry, but it's something that I need to go back and do. Like, I think that there's a capacity there for her to be really good if I can just like learn the comp a bit more intricately and run the supportive units a little more effectively, and you know, probably some of the nuanced things you talked about earlier. If I actually keep those in mind, maybe I can find a way to do it. But I hate having to rely, because I always want, if I'm rolling solo Lux carry, then I always, unless I'm running 8 Arcanists with Vex frontline, I always want Socialite in my board. And I'm contingent on the Socialite Hex being backline every game. I hate it. Therefore, how do I outplay anyone with positioning? I don't like where Lux is at. I don't mind playing her as like a secondary carry in the Yone board, but at the same time, you're not even running Arcanists. Like, you're not meant to prioritize her as a carry. So look, I don't like her as a solo carry. I think she's good in 8 Arcanists, but at the same time, I can't run 8 Arcanists every game. It's not something I can force make an emblem than I can. And in a Yone board, I shouldn't be prioritizing her. I should be prioritizing Yone Fiora. So no, I don't really, you know, it's not filling the void at the moment, but who knows? I might get to the point where I can, you know, actually utilize her a bit more effectively. But unlike what I was doing previous set, where I'm prioritizing AP items, I'm definitely not doing that this set. So we'll see how I adapt around that the more games I get under this set. But for now, it's definitely not filling the void.
Your thoughts, Cover? Oh, I guess sorry. I guess I was
yeah, I know it's for
we can
James.
talk about Lux.
I will
We can
just-
all talk about Lux. I mean,
Yeah, I will just round off by saying like Lux shouldn't feel the same as Vel'Koz, you know, like it's a very different.
For sure.
Like it's like in a lot of ways, it's very, very different. Which is cool. Like that's great. I really like that. I like that it's like. I like that you play Lux in comps where you have no need for Lux in some ways. You know what I mean? Like you're playing it in Academy and you don't even put any items on it. It's just kind of sitting there doing whatever it wants. If the Socialite Hex, like if Socialite continues to be a really integral part of building late game boards, I can certainly see Lux's popularity sort of like ebbing and flowing with like game to game, tournament to tournament, like 4 Socialites in a row were on the back row, so all of a sudden the high, like Lux's priority has just gone up. There's people starting tier or going for early jeweled gauntlet kind of thing, just because of where the Socialite Hex is. I can see that being definitely a possibility. I just don't think it'll ever be like over the top.
Yeah.
I think I think as with my current experience with Lux, she's definitely one of the weaker AP carries we've seen in comparison to AP carries from previous sets. She's not really in Soul. She's no Vel'Koz. I will say though, I think people are giving her a little bit too much flack. Because I did play a decent amount of Lux in my climb, including top 2ing a game where I didn't realize I was playing Lux without Arcanist at all. So, what's interesting about Lux is I actually think the whole like build your Lux to one-shot everything Arcanist approach is actually like, unless you go for the full 8 Arcanist route, it's probably incorrect. And what I've noticed with Lux boards that actually is interesting is that if you just put Lux in like the whole like Braum, Leona, like super tanky frontline with the whole like Janna, Orianna, Yumi chassis, the strength of that chassis is enough that Lux still performs, if that makes sense. So she almost ends up being like an AP Jhin at that point. Whether that's saying that Lux isn't that bad, or rather is that an issue of that specific chassis being too good? Like You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like
Yeah.
is Braum, Leota, Jdahni, or a Yuumi just so good that I can play any carry I want? Maybe that's the real thing that's going on. But I think there's still a lot to learn with Lux, and that it's definitely not solved, because I think a lot of people right now are playing Lux like how we've played AP carries before, and that has not been as successful.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool. All right.
That about does it, I think, right? I think we're pretty much out of questions.
Yeah, there's one more. There's one more for me.
Alright, go on.
Which is it says, Sol, you were the first of the boys in the pod to hit master this season. Do you feel a sense of superiority right now? I would be lying if I said no, but I feel like it's fake superiority because I've just played more. So like, I feel like if I hit masters in like 30 something games, like Angora did, then I would absolutely feel like PD. But I mean, I took like 95 games. I feel like that's a pretty average amount of games to take to hit
You
masters.
actually do it in
so...
30. That's insane. What the?
Angora did it. Angora, let me check his lol chest. I think he did it in like 40 something games.
52. He's built differently. What
Yeah, 52. That's right. He did it. I think in like literally like 37, 38. And he said and I was watching his stream when he hit it. He was like, "Oh, I should have done this in like 30." And I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ, this guy.
Oh, that's insane.
This guy's actually PD.
For sure. It's still very respectable. I think you're on like 90 games or something, right?
95. Yeah, it took me 95 games.
I don't even think. I think it'll take me like 125 to be honest. If I put a prop bet on it, I think it'd be 125 or whatever. Yeah.
That's
Respect.
mad. It's pretty mad.
Yeah,
That's
thank you,
fucking
thank you.
sick. Well done, Solo, by the way. I mean, it's a great achievement.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
guys, we've made it
thanks.
to the end of the podcast. You know, it's been a long one
Yeah.
tonight. So if you've joined us live, thank you so much. And I mean, if you're listening to this on the audio and you've made it all the way through, I mean, big congratulations. Big congratulations. If you are listening to this on the audio and you don't join us live, then it's over at twitch.tv/CutlerTFT every Tuesday night, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Would love to say a big thank you, first of all, to my co-host Sol, of course, for the amazing job that he does here with me every Tuesday night. I'm so appreciative of you and you for basically carrying the fucking climb, so you know what you're talking about for this podcast. I'm sitting here like, wait, what is that? What does that augment do? Like, what's the name of this augment? Like,
look, I'm the color commentator and Cutler's the play-by-play. You know, I
Yeah,
gotta
exactly.
do my due diligence and make sure I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Perfect. I love that. And of course, a big thank you to our guest James for coming on tonight. It's been such a pleasure to have you. You know, I will do one more thing where I say a nice thing about you, but don't get your head too big. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really nice. You've been a really insightful guest, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. If I could get a closing remark in, look, just to get a little bit sappy once again. Okay, literally just a shout out to the community one more time. Like they've literally kept my interest in this game peaked. Just actually being able to have these dialogues with yourselves and just being able to share my highs and lows through my stream with all the community. Like the community is so intertwined between all the OC streamers that it's so nice. It keeps me engaged and yeah, really happy with that.
For sure. Hella wholesome. Everyone knows each other.
Yeah, totally.
Guys, that marks the end of the podcast. So what we're going to do now is get James the hell out of here. Not only that, we're going to get David the hell out of here. And then we're going to get me the hell out of here. And that is going to be it for tonight. So James, thank you for joining us. Just please let us know where we can find you online.
No, actually, you can't find me anywhere. I don't stream.
All right, well, thanks for coming.
Oh, that's a shame. Oh, that's a shame. You should really think about streaming, man. You should really think about it now, you know?
Yeah. Okay, you can find me at twitch.tv/Jdahni. Thank you, Cutler.
You're welcome. I do notice that you have a Twitter now as well.
Okay, I'm not going to be using Twitter. I only use it to respond to your Twitter, but sure, that's J_Dahni, because there's apparently someone named Jack Dahni or something on this planet, which I didn't think was possible, but someone beat me to Jdahni. Yeah, whatever.
Nice.
Guys, that's going to do it. Let's say goodbye to wonderful James. James, thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.